Ladies and gentlemen, this will be a tutorial video, ironically, on how you can get so rich you get depressed. So I want to start off this parable with two people, right? The first person is going to be Alexander the Great, and the second person is going to be Diogenes. Now, not a lot of people know the famous story between these two. Alexander the Great was a king. He was also the son of a king that very easily could have been turned into a bee. Diogenes, on the other hand, a little less known, was a philosopher. Okay, this dude was a philosopher. He was essentially known for being the original troll. A lot of people don't even believe he existed. There's many rumors that exist about Diogenes, but he was essentially a dude that lived in a ceramic bowl. We're going to draw a ceramic bowl. He used to live here. He used to live with dogs, right? I'm going to draw my best rendition of a dog here. He used to be naked, so he didn't have any shirts. He didn't have any clothes. And just to give you an idea of what type of dude this was, he was once arguing with somebody about the concept of motion. So at the time of the Greeks, people used to argue about random stuff, a lot of stuff, because they believed that it was all well and good in the pursuit of knowledge. So somebody was arguing with him, this is the other person, arguing with him about motion. He's like, I don't believe motion exists. So Diogenes just walked away. He was that type of dude. One time, forgive me for being explicit, he was masturbating in public. And somebody asked him why he was doing so. And he said, I only wish it were as easy to get rid of hunger by rubbing my stomach. So he was essentially a wild man. He was categorized, or he was defined by his lack of desire. So desire was not something that he had as a whole. Alexander the Great, on the other hand, very fundamentally, was a desirous man. He was a man that desired to conquer. He succeeded in conquering, so on and so forth. But a very interesting thing happened. Alexander the Great and Diogenes, they met together, okay? They had a meeting, okay? And in this meeting, Alexander the Great, who was a king, the son of a king, this man who conquered the world, came to Diogenes. And he asked Diogenes, because Diogenes' legend was so famous. So I'm going to draw a ceramic bowl. We're going to draw, Diogenes here. We're going to draw Alexander the Great here, okay? He's the king, so let's draw a little crown on him. So Alexander the Great came with all his, all his adversaries, all the people that essentially followed him, his commanders, everything like that, came to Diogenes. And Alexander the Great asked him a famous question. Alexander the Great asked him, what is it that you want? I'm the conqueror of the known world. What do you want? And Diogenes didn't say nothing. He said, step out of my sunlight. The greatest desire that Diogenes had at that point was that he wanted to preserve his sunlight, okay? And he wanted Alexander the Great to step out of his sunlight. Now that's all well and clear. The fascinating part is that, according to legend, Alexander then turned to his adversaries, turned to his commanders, and he said to them, if I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I like to call the paradox of ambition. The paradox of ambition is such that an individual who actually gets to the point of success, right? They go through all the trials, all the tribulations, all the ups and downs, and they eventually reach this stratus point. They reach this pinnacle, which you call success. They eventually get depressed. And the reason why Alexander the Great wished to be Diogenes was because the desire not to desire is the greatest of all desires. But there is a caveat here. The caveat is that this is only true for a man who has fulfilled all his desires. As an entrepreneur, obviously, you're going to be an ambitious individual. You're going to be focused heavily on the destination. So we're going to draw like a red dot here. Excuse my crappy drawing. Most entrepreneurs, I'm going to be completely honest with you, because they're so focused on the destination, never actually end up getting there. So they never actually have the feeling. They never understand how it feels to question life itself, because they never achieve their goals. A very easy way of doing this whole exercise, of getting to the point where you question life itself, where you become an existentialist, where you question the meaning of making money, is to have a short goal. But the thing is this, subconsciously, the human brain is so afraid of achieving the goal that it spends all of its time creating an elaborate vision of this goal, when in reality, all you had to do was set a smaller goal, perceive it as big, achieve that goal, and then you would have been like, what is the meaning of life? Why am I depressed? What am I put here for? But because there exists this subconscious fear of understanding the truth about reality, the entrepreneur does what any individual who is afraid of the absolute truth about reality, which we're not going to get into here, they create this elaborate vision. And this elaborate vision becomes the scapegoat. This becomes the mask that hides the truth, which is the fact that the entrepreneur truly lacks meaning and purpose in their life. So then what the entrepreneur resorts to, and again, I'm exploring this very philosophically, so please bear with me here, is that the entrepreneur resorts to never actually achieving the goal. A lot of entrepreneurs keep pushing this back. They get to 1 million, they get to 10, they get to 100, they get to 1 billion, and then they keep on pushing it back. And so that's a sort of nihilistic escapism that they practice upon themselves, where they keep pushing it back. And so there's another story actually where Diogenes, right, the dude in the ceramic bowl, was looking at a pile of bones. Okay, so there's a pile of bones here. Okay, let's just draw one bone. All right, and Alexander the Great, and again, this is according to legend, looks at Diogenes, asks him what Diogenes is doing, and Diogenes tells him that he's trying to find the bones of Alexander the Great's father, but he could not distinguish the bones of Alexander's father from that of a slave. And what he truly meant, of course, you can take this as an insult, he's calling his dad a slave, but you got to understand the details are that Alexander the Great's father was a king, but in reality, the king is he who is free. And Alexander the Great and his father, both of them were enslaved by the prospect of their freedom. And upon being enslaved by the prospect of their freedom, they essentially had absolutely no capacity to evade being slaves. So what Diogenes meant when he couldn't distinguish the bones of Alexander's father from that of a slave was that Alexander's father in reality was a slave to his own desires. Alexander's father thought that he was liberating himself from this, measly, whatever the hell the Maslow's hierarchy of needs state. So at the bottom, there's food and water and whatever, right? And then you have higher needs. The top is self-actualization. What's right underneath it is self-esteem, okay? And here's the thing. The issue is that there is usually a conflation between this and this. So what does the entrepreneur do? They try to fix the problem of self-esteem and they confuse it for being a game of solving self-actualization. Right under it, social, okay? They tried to solve the problem of not being social or not having their social needs fulfilled, and they confuse it for self-esteem. And the thing is this, right? This is where most entrepreneurs are stuck, is that it's all related to the ego. They chase the biggest object, the biggest achievement that they can, the biggest vision that they can create. Most of them are already filtered out because they make a vision so big without actually forgetting to make actionable steps to get there. They don't actually have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to actually get up there. And then so they live in the comfort of knowing that they'll never actually have to see what's behind this. The entrepreneur that does reach it, what does that entrepreneur do? They keep pushing it back because they believe that their self-esteem is completely reliant on how far they can push this, right? That's how they evade their insecurity. When in reality, self-actualization is a different game. Now, what is self-actualization? I could not tell you. The reason why I could not tell you is because I have no idea myself. I'm stuck in this cycle, okay? This is what I think about late at night. This is what I think about in the shower. And maybe to a lot of you, this is a complex mess. For the few of you that understand, the only thing that I can say is that I do not push the point. So this is the point of success. I don't push it further. And this is going to sound cliche, but the point is the destination. What I try to do is I try to focus simply on the journey, and that is the inputs, and that is the actual execution. The destination is the outcome. The inputs are the execution. And the reason why I believe I do that is because for me, I was at first the entrepreneur who had the great vision that I wanted to actualize in the world. And I could not break down these simple tasks. I couldn't break it down into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 simple step-by-step solution that would actually get me to actualizing that vision. But once I figured out how to actually break down every single thing, to simplify it and to not fall off. By the way, if you're wondering what that is, it's just prioritization, elimination, and accountability. Like these are literally the 3 things that I founded my business on. Prioritization, elimination, and accountability. These are how you actually get to the point of actualizing this sort of vision. But what I do in order to cope with this essentially is that I focus on the journey instead of the destination. And so it goes back to this statement, right? Which is that the individual who falls in love with the walking ends up walking farther than the individual who falls in love with the destination. And what you want to do is you want to recognize the fact that it's the walking that you need to learn to love. It's not the outcome, it's not the destination, it's actually the journey, it's the input. Every single day that you record the video, every single time you do the outreach, every single time you close the call, that is the walking. That is what you must fall in love with. Because the destination, it's in the nature of the destination's staticity, if that's even a word. The fact that it is static is what makes the destination so depressing. So have no destination, just walk. And if you learn the skill of walking, if you learn the skill of executing instead of just creating a vision, then you will have the right, then you will have earned the right to question why you did it to begin with. There's this famous Japanese samurai, and this samurai was once out recruiting students, and he barely ever recruited. He was a famous samurai, allegedly. One of the people that he consulted with, or I'm saying, see, I'm stuck in the business world, consulted. One of the students that he was looking to train, right, was trying to impress him because obviously he wanted the position. So he was like, how long will it take me to become a master samurai? That's what the student asked the samurai. And the samurai said 10 years. And then the student said, what if I work twice as long, twice as hard? What if I do X, Y, Z? Essentially, just lip service to impress the master. Maybe, he'll let me in. But when he said, what if I work twice as hard, twice as long, and, put in X amount of times more work, how fast am I going to get there? And the samurai said 20 years. It'll take you double the time. And so the principle there, once again, is that when you have one eye focused on the destination, you only have one eye left to focus on the journey. And when you have one eye on the journey, you only have one hand left to hold the sword, the katana, I guess, in this example. You can't swing adequately because you're too focused on the end result. And so that's the other part of the paradox of ambition, is that the individual who falls in love with the walking, once again, walks farther. If you fucking give a flying fuck about the destination, you will surpass the destination, even though you never even conceived it. You didn't even make you didn't have this whole vision board of this is who I want to be. You just focus on the inputs. You just focus on the execution. And in doing so, you earn the right to get so rich that you got depressed.